So let me drop a null down here so that we can get access to these particles outside. Okay, see them there. Our lovely debris. So out debris, we're going to be using it in the next part of our course here. Okay, deleting that merge because it's just for for visualizing that. So come out here. I'm just going to tidy this up a bit because it's annoying me that we got the simulation here, simulation here. I'm going to make another geometry node for the dust that we're about to work on. Dust. Okay, and let's color them as well, the same as the others. That nice light green. Cool. So let's dive in here. Go back to the first frame. Object merge in that null that we just made, which is in debris, out debris. There we go. We can see it there. Fantastic. And I'm also going to alt click and drag this to copy it. And I'm going to go ahead and find not the debris, but in our bridge sim, the bridge sim, yes. Okay, so that's just the simulation, not the rendered, not the bent metal. You can see, these don't line up properly, but that's, it's much faster. And we're just going to use this. So yeah, basically the idea is we're going to have two layers of pyro. One which is lighter, which we're going to emit from here. Okay, I think just the road again. And another one which is kind of a heavier, denser dust, which is emitted and generated from these particles. Okay, so there is kind of, I'm thinking about it in terms of scale, I suppose. The dust which is following this is a bit thicker, heavier, larger particle sizes, but obviously it's dust, not particles. But it will be falling with the gravity and a bit heavier looking. And then what's emitted from here will be similar but lighter. It will just kind of hang around in the air, some of it moving up as well. Okay, so we'll start off with this one, and we will do something similar to a shelf tool, but kind of a very time-saving thing, which is in the pyro. If you just right-click or press tab, and then go into your pyro area here and go to pyro configure billowy smoke. Okay, and that gives you a nice string of nodes there. So we have our smoke source, creating the density attribute, adding noise to that density attribute and the temperature in this case, and then rasterizing, creating a volume from that, and then a simulation. So we're going to be using these. We'll go over each one. So obviously we don't need this sphere. We're not going to be emitting from there. So delete that. Go back to the first frame that's trying to simulate up to there, and then plug in my particles here. Okay, so this is trying to scatter points onto a surface. We don't have a surface, we have points, so we're going to keep the input points, right? Just go forward. So nothing changes there. If we change it to scatter surface, you can see it fails, all right? So yeah, we want keep input. We're not going to be working with temperature in this case, okay? Just density and velocity. All right, everything else we can leave as default. So let's visualize. We'll try to visualize that density. Well, we'll have to make, if we come in here, you can see where we've got a density attribute. Obviously, it's just one everywhere now, a float attribute. But once we come here, there'll be some noise added to it. There we go. So you can see we've got lighter and heavier areas of density. So I'm just going to leave this at default, I think, because I like the kind of scale. We've got nice kind of variation there. So we got, I think red will be higher density. We can actually check that here. Yeah. So density of 1, density of 0. So 1 and 0. So we'll get a nice kind of a bit of variation to this. So it's multiplying the incoming density with the noise that we generate here. We don't need temperature, it shouldn't matter really. It's on the points. It's a one-dimensional noise. Okay, it's just density, it's not a vector. It'll be animated, so it'll be moving a little bit. In our case, that won't matter too much because these points are moving so quickly, but we could just leave it on. It won't harm it at all. We're remapping the noise, so the noise that comes out of here I think is from -1 to 1 is simplex noise. So we're remapping that so that it becomes a 0 to 1 value, which is better for our density. We don't want minus values, okay? And then distributing that so we have more contrast. So this will give us, you know, values of 1 at 0, and then 1 at 1 as well, and then everything in the middle will be at 0. So this is just a good way of giving you lots of contrast, this kind of shape. And then post duration is how quickly that animation is. That doesn't really matter. Element size, you know, we can play around with that. You'll see it's changing how big the shapes are. Take that back to 0.2 where it was. Element scale, so if you want, you know if you want it stretched out in any direction, and you can offset it if you like, and then some more control over the look of the noise. But as I said, you know, default is pretty good for us. Then we are rasterizing that, so that means taking that density attribute and changing it into a volume. So we should be able to see, there we go, there's our, well, quite ugly volume, to be frank. But that's okay for the moment, you know, it's working, we're doing something. So we, again, are not doing temperature. This voxel size, this is linked up to here, I believe. If we look at the expression, so we're taking in the particle separation here, okay, but we're not actually generating particles here, and the particle scale in the, where's that? They're both coming from here, okay? But as I said, we're not generating particles there, so that's kind of meaningless. So we'll just delete that, and we'll eventually connect it to the voxel scale there, right? So yeah, we generate the actual volume ready to be sourced into our pyro solver, okay? So, you know, we will be adding a bit more to this. Obviously, we'll want the velocity from the points as well, and add some noise to that velocity, and then we'll need to do some stuff in the pyro solver as well. We'll do that next.